All right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening.
Evening, Ram.
Good evening. So,
Hey Ram, good evening.
welcome to this Open Talks session brought to you by SkillTap. My name is Ramakrishnan, and I will be the backstage manager for today's session. So today's topic is very intriguing, as you would have seen in the post, the invitations that you would have received. Agile in the post-pandemic era, benefiting from agile habits. That's what we're going to be talking about. So before we get into it, a few ground rules for everybody. Please keep your audio on mute all the time. I'm sure you would have heard this millions of times over the past few months. So please keep your audio on mute. If you have a question or a comment, please type in the chat box. I will be collating the same and sharing with the panelists at an appropriate time. The way the session will go is the panelists will be sharing their insight on this topic for about 45 to 50 minutes, post which they will answer the questions that you will be putting in the chat box. And towards the end of the session, I will also initiate a poll and request all of you to respond. Okay. So with that, let me do the honors and introduce our wonderful panelists. Let me start with Puneet Doshi. Many of you would already be knowing him. He's pretty popular in the world of Agile. He has over 20 years of IT experience and is an Agile practitioner for over 7 years. He's currently working with a cancer research company in their Agile transformation journey. He has played the role of a Scrum Master and Agile coach at a large US bank and has a passion for enterprise level Agile transformation. Pardon the noise, the background noise. Okay. Puneet has trained over 2,000 people in Agile, Scrum, and Kanban. He has worked in different industries at different levels. And with a software engineering background, Puneet has a deep technical understanding and is able to coach development teams on engineering practices and software development. He works very closely with senior management and CXO levels for business and product strategy. So welcome to this session, Puneet, and we really look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Ram.
Thank you. The next panelist that I would like to introduce, it's my pleasure to introduce Ashish Sharma. Ashish comes with about 20 plus years of IT experience, with the last 10 plus years in various Agile transformation roles. Currently, he's working with LTI as a lead transformation coach, helping clients attain business agility through improved ways of working. So we would love to hear from you, Ashish. Love to hear your insights. Welcome.
Sure. Thanks, Ram, for having me here. Yeah.
Thank you. Most welcome. And the next panelist that we have is Shiva Subramanian. Shiva, as he is called, has close to 20 years of IT experience, having worked in product and services organizations. He has helped clients on their agile transformation as a developer, coach, and solution architect. Currently has the head of capabilities for ThoughtWorks India. He's focused on building core capabilities for teams and communities at scale. Welcome to this discussion, Shiva. We really look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, thanks again, Ram. Thanks for the opportunity.
Wonderful. So over to you, Puneet. Please take the session forward.
Thank you, Ram. And hello, everyone. I know we have people from different geographies. I know Alberto. He's from Nigeria. I believe most of the other folks we have are in India. So good evening to all of you and good afternoon to Alberto. And let's take this forward, right? 2020, a very unique year for all of us. We started the year as if it's going to be just another normal year for all of us. And we never knew what was going to hit us. By the month of March, India went into lockdown, and pretty much majority of the world was into lockdown, and it had affected a lot of organizations globally. I'm personally aware of a lot of, quite a few of my clients, they were grappling with this situation because their infra was not set up so that the employees can work from home, especially if they have contingent workers, people who are coming from other vendors, even more restricted access to them. And when this happened, it was like a moment of truth for a lot of organizations. They were struggling to figure out, um, how do we move forward? And I just want to pick on the brains of the panel members. Like we have Shiva, we have Ashish, both of them working with different organizations. And I'm sure they have been through the situation. So let's start with Shiva, right? Shiva, if you don't mind, my question to you is, uh, how did your organization, ThoughtWorks, manage to work throughout 2020 based on, what were the challenges you faced and how was the organization able to take it forward? So Shiva, please do share your thoughts.
Yeah, sure, Puneet. Good evening, everyone. So glad to be in this discussion today. Yes, the 2020 was something that nobody expected, the way it has panned out. And even now, we are still talking about, what could happen in the next coming months. There is still that uncertainty. So by and large, I think the fears have been allayed by various, efforts put together by a lot of people coming together and helping the cause. So as an organization, ThoughtWorks, yeah, we are a global company, global service company. We have clients, across the world. And when all of this started, it was still like, it took us a while to really get to know, okay, that this could become a pandemic. So initially there were reports in China and we were talking about, okay, we have some clients there. Maybe it's something that the China teams will have to figure out. And then it went to Italy. If you remember the first thing after
Italy and
major
Spain.
Italy and Spain, and we had clients there in Italy. And then just that we realized, okay, from our office, one of the offices that I'm part of, we had folks travel during that weekend. And that's when it hit us that, hey, I think we need to look at it, something bigger than, okay, it's just happening in China now. I think that is how it started in the sense that almost all of us were unprepared, while some of us were looking at what was happening in China and how our offices there were handling the situation. It just took us completely unprepared. In fact, the team, we had to call them back. When they had just started, I think the folks there went for a inception to start off a new engagement. Inception that we call when we want to start a new engagement with the client. So that's how it started, and it's still fresh in my mind. I was probably one of the persons handling that situation that time, and we have come a long way. I think all of us have, as a community, we have found out different ways for us to adapt and then for us to come out of that. I think one of the first steps that we took was in terms of assessing, right, like our existing engagements as well, and figuring out the release plans that we had, and what could have probably a higher risk, because there was some amount of confusion as well, right? It was not that, okay, everything was under control. There were a lot of confusion, chaos, and as it spread, it just became clear to everyone that this is not going to go away. It's not like neither is it isolated. It's just becoming big, and it was growing. And the other aspect to all of this is, apart from the operations, is also the fear that it induces in people. Suddenly,
Mm-hmm.
you hear someone who's close, to you, to your family, and then there may be a friend getting affected, and it just you just forget about it. You just shut down, right? You're not
Yeah.
even thinking about, okay, what should I do today, or tomorrow am I going to come to the office? So I think we had a lot of discussions wherein we wanted to initially allay the general fear, and then eventually by having some doctors and others come and address, and eventually we started working more closely with clients, working in terms of, okay, what is the current roadmap that we have and what is the contingency. And like Puneet, you were mentioning earlier, we do have co-located teams as well, where in some parts we have hot workers, not in ThoughtWorks offices but in client locations, and
Mm-hmm.
it just gets a little bit more complicated, because then you'll have to figure out, okay, how is that client organization handling the
Mm-hmm.
current exigency, and what is the way out. So the initial period, we did know that remote working was something that was almost going to become the new normal, almost becoming mainstream. And some of us are not new to remote working, especially in IT organizations. A lot of the companies are already have set up the infrastructure and given people the access to work from home. And if you also recollect, distributed agile, always relied on remotely, position teams, wherein you have teams where there is probably redundancy in certain roles and people are already doing stuff around the clock and working towards that. So some of that really helps in terms of getting the right mindset that yes, this is something you have to accept and figure out how you move forward. And one other thing probably is that coming out with a playbook also really helped in terms of how do you go from where you are today. You could be at a particular level, and then what are the various levels at which you achieve that maturity in terms of working completely remote. So it's been pretty challenging overall. I can say I can talk more on this, but just in the interest of time, just wanted to call out that it's been pretty challenging and very exhausting too. I would be thought of my own saying if I don't honestly admit that it was been very exhausting going through all of this during the tough times.
Right. Thanks for sharing, Shiva. Ashish, how about you? How was it in your space for L&T?
I think it was all same for all the organization, right? We were hit by the same ball. It was unprecedented. There was absolutely no time to react. We saw it coming, but one day the lockdown will happen, and you're suddenly being asked to work from home. That is where I think not just mine, but no organization was ready, right? But I think one I would not say good, but empathizing factor was that it was a worldwide phenomenon. So while we were trying to do something from this as a service provider, the client were quite understanding that yes, there are situations which is like common across, and everybody would need some time to react to this, adjust to this. There were a lot of issues, right? I mean, you have different types of projects in the service provider company. You have particular ODCs where your office presence is a must. You have to come to office. There are ODCs where pretty much there are no laptops. There are only desktops. You have to come there, connect to the VPN. So it was all about, initially, it was all about the infrastructure. And that is where the maximum work was done by organization, almost all organization, including mine. So the first task at the hand was, how do you ensure that there is a continuation of the business, right? And IT had to work day and night, ensuring everybody gets a laptop or shifting their desktop to home. And that was also a tedious task, right? I mean, those were the high times where, trying to reach out to someone or talking to someone was almost prohibited, and it was difficult task. And there was a big lesson there also, that how can we do it remotely? I mean, do we really need to shift the laptop? Do we need to shift the desktop? How can we do it remotely, so that there are solutions now in the terms of your, BYOD, bring your own desktop or device, whatever software operating system or developer or tester need, all can be pre-set up on a mirror image and can be set up on any desktop through virtual machine. So we have come to solution now, but that was the time where there were a lot of confusion on the solution, as well as around how long this pandemic would stay, whether we should wait or we should start reacting or responding. So that was probably the confusion for a couple of months. But I think people understood that this is not going to go away. Like Shiva also said, that we have to find some solution which is long term also. But that's just the beginning, right? It is not just enough to make or enable people being operative or being able to work from home. There is a greater need. There is a greater need of how you can make them grow also. There is a greater need of how you can make them efficient also. Yes, they can connect, but are they feeling engaged? Are they having the right kind of assets? Otherwise, they would have in office like trainings or the manager connect and things like that. So that is where my organization came with a solution called XFH. X stands for everything. It was like everything from home, where we partnered with Microsoft to build a platform called LTI Canvas, and that has key solutions around software engineering through AI ML driven insights that can help developer and tester to become more efficient. And this has pretty much become a part DNA of LTI. So pretty much extending from work from home to grow from home, because we can't just work from home. Yeah, that was good for a couple of months, 3 months, but we have to think beyond it, right? So and there are other things like how do you enable them? There are more trainings enabled through self-paced portals, uh, and all this is going to stay. So I think this is where, while we tried few things, while we tested few things, few things worked out, few things did not work out, and this is where we are trying to not just adopting, we are kind of getting into our DNA, which is becoming a habit of working. So even in the future, and probably we will talk about it, these practices are going to stay. So a lot of work has been done. I think we are in the stabilized form now, every organization, and every organization is looking at how we can deal with this kind of situation in the future and how we can still do better.
Thank you, Ashish. Thanks for sharing. So, me being like an agile coach, I have similar experiences that you mentioned. What happened is during the first few months, when people started working from home, originally they thought, okay, it would be good break for us. So then it turned out that we will be working from home for a long time. Uh, a lot of things were happening. Like in the teams that I coached, some of the team members were going through kind of like panicky situation, right? Either some of their loved ones have contracted the virus, and you could see it when they talk in the call, when they participate, the participation went down. They were nervous, and as a coach, for me, what helped, was those one-to-one connects during office time. We always had those water cooler or pantry conversations, which led to a lot of findings. And over here, I realized that as a leaders within the organization, one of the jobs was to calm the nerves down of the team. That hey, no one's going to get laid off. We know you are going through stress. If you have anyone in your family who's going through who's infected and you are nervous about it, it's okay. Take some time off. Okay, first attend your family, first attend your family time, get everything sorted, and then we can come back at home, come back at work, right? So that was one of the first initiatives we took, just to make sure that the employees feel that hey, it's not that we are at work and we have to continue working, and we are all humans, and we need to feel that your office is usually your social network, right? We work together for 9-10 hours every day, and these become your friends, your colleagues, and everyone. You exchange your personal information once in a while, and now you don't have that option. So we used to have those high coffee tea breaks in the afternoon, where the team members would just jump on the bridge just to catch up with each other on personal front. No more meetings. Let's just zone that out. We even had to introduce the time where, hey, between couple of hours every day, no meeting zone, because now that our casual conversations are gone, what can we do about it? Because we need to have meetings to decide on when to have the next meeting. How do we reduce those kind of stuff? So we wanted to get those times away so that the team members can focus at work. And at one point, some team members complain, you know what, I miss our office, that the keyboard clicks, the keyboard hits and stuff, like our colleagues talking side by side. We have started to miss those voices right now. So at one point, we even experimented with getting onto a Zoom bridge, and we use the breakout room a lot, where we just, we created whoever wants to talk to their colleagues, pair up, do the pair programming. They go into a breakout room, they work over there, they come back in the main room. People can put their headset down if need be, and if someone is calling, they can just, hey, can you put your headset up? I just need to have a quick conversation with you. Put it up, and they will talk with each other. So these kind of activities did help, and keeping people feel that hey, your office mates are also there to care for you. That made their lives a little bit better. And now I know we all have that itch, that when can we go back to office and start working. Given the current situation, though, I know maybe for next quarter or 6 months or 2 quarters, I think we may not be going to office that much. Maybe not even go to office for the next quarter. Um, what are your thoughts about the path moving forward? Meaning, how are your organizations thinking of like, hey, moving forward, we may have like full work from home or mix of both, or full time going back to office? And what do you feel would work out better based on your experience? So this time I want to start with Ashish.
Sure.
Ashish.
I mean, this is probably my personal take. That may or may not align, but that's my reading, that probably will never see 100% occupancy in office ever. If you look at some of the organizations, they have chucked off the office space wherever they were rented. So the intention is very clear that they are not going to have the 100% occupancy in office. It would be, my take is, it would be on the need base. There would be more flexi seats where you can just book them on demand. There are only that number of seats. You have to book them in advance and come and work. Uh, what my organization is also doing, and I'm sure other organizations are pretty much working in that direction, that is a long-term solution. See, this is one attack, but who knows when next such virus comes into our life, right? So we have to be ready. And this is where, as a long-term solution, LTI is opening boutique office in second-tier cities like Nagpur, Bhopal, Indore, and Lucknow and things like that, right? And so, and with the residential neighborhood, so that such you don't have to travel a lot. You are probably working in a campus where you are staying as well as working. So as a long-term solution, there has to be some percentage of your workforce working in that kind of zone, which is not so prone to such attacks, right? Where you can continue working. So that is something which is going in my organization. However, on the but when this has become a norm, working from home, organization also wants to um, take a little more cognizant approach about being in control, right? So you would see more control over your work, more scanning systems are being placed. I mean, it's not a bad thing always, right? We see it as a negative, but it's about finding some patterns of your working styles also. And there are AI/ML engines behind it which can suggest you, even if you are overworked. Sometimes you are not aware that you are overworked. So and there are automated system to assist you with HR, finance, travel system, where you actually had to go to office, show some receipt and all that. All that is going to be automated. So that is my take. Never going to be 100% flexi things. And we will also see some long-term solutions around, having less people in office.
Got it. Thanks for sharing. Shiva, how about you?
Yeah, I think similar to what Ashish just mentioned, and I was just recollecting one of the dashboards that I saw that the TechOps team in ThoughtWorks India had prepared. I think about 3 months after the initial lockdown, the various places from where the in the India map, various cities that the people were thought workers were working from was so geographically distributed that though we had about 6 offices, we could see so many blips in various places, including one from Jammu and Kashmir. We were like wondering, okay, who is this person who is working from there? So we were really able to see those clusters from where there were more people, who were actually logging in and then getting their work done. And like Ashish just mentioned, I think it's going to become, the next step would be to figure out how do we support this work from anywhere, right? The model. That's the initiative that we are calling it in ThoughtWorks. It's not going to be work from home. Maybe it's back to office. Whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is, eventually it's going to become work from anywhere. And hence,
Mm-hmm.
whatever in terms of infrastructure, it could be the laptops, the onboarding process. There are a bunch of these things that have to be taken into consideration. Now, how do you roll out at scale and for a given need as diverse as this? Because one of the things I want to call out is while we spoke about all the challenges, I think there has also been a pleasant surprise in certain things which we believe would never be possible unless you do it face to face or in an office setup. Right? Things like onboarding. I'm sure every company has now figured out okay how to onboard people very quickly and send the laptops maybe within the first 3 days or maybe even the first 2 days. I know some companies are doing it on the same day as well. Wherein earlier it used to take slightly more time. So the centralization and scaling, because you have all come together and looking at it as one cluster and then trying to solve. I think that has really helped in many functions, and including the function that I head for ThoughtWorks, which is capability development. Including myself, we all used to say that capability development training has to be face to face. You really can't get much out of a remote training, or you can only do so much. That's just turned topsy-turvy. Now we are running all the programs, in remote, because there was no other way we could run these programs, and because they have been run pretty well. Believe me, the management wants to just continue the same, even if we go back to office. Let's still run it the way you are running it, because it is we are able to see the effectiveness and many of the constraints that some of these operations used to bring in. Operation is always
Mm-hmm.
about constraints, mobility, logistics. All of that is just you don't have to worry about it. For some reason, it's like, oh, just a Zoom invite, like how Ram just shared this invite, and every one of us are here finding our own ways to make the time and then log in and then be
Mm-hmm.
take part in this forum. That is
Yep.
something we are also seeing, that it has broken a lot of myths, that things are still doable, and sometimes it can be better than how you have experienced it in the past.
Got it. Thanks, Shiva. So great. My next question is actually a little bit of open question for both of you, and I'll also add later on from my side. Given that people have started working from home, a lot of agile practices, like we used to, we either use Scrum or we have Kanban. I know ThoughtWorks is a big shop for extreme programming. So some of the practices that people used to have earlier, like pair programming, where two people would be seated on a desk and doing the work together, or having that quick daily stand up where people come together, circle around the Scrum board, and talk about how the progress has been. So all these have taken a new turn in every organization now that people are working remotely. The physical presence is mostly missing in every organization. So my question is, how did your organization, your Scrum teams or Agile teams, they manage their ceremonies or events, or the pair programming or any of these practices that they used to follow earlier, uh, and how has that been impacted, and what did they do differently this time, and what are they saying that it is giving them the same value, or are they seeing that it is not the same as what they were expecting before? So more of like, I just want to pick on your thoughts, like what have you seen happen in your organization? So I'll leave it up to you. Who wants to go first this time, Ashish or Shiva?
I'd like to hear Shiva's, because he's more into it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
sure.
Shiva.
I mean, Puneet, this is a real challenge, right? It's not an easy thing, especially if you look at how projects get delivered in Agile. It's always about people coming together, a lot of interactions, collaboration, make it more people-centric. And even in the manifesto, it says, like individuals and interactions over tools and processes. While we need tools and processes, it still should not come in the way of people getting together and collaborating and delivering value to customers. So having said that, it just hits it right on the center. It's like just as a place where you just can't, you just want to get
Yeah.
impacted. I think it just hits us there. This remote separation, and yeah, I mean, no matter what software it is, whether it be Zoom, I think software is also evolving. They are getting better and better. Like you mentioned, right? Things never get done as in, it's never done over the table. Yeah, you just start something and then you are walking together. Maybe, you go and take a break, it's a coffee conversation. You still are discussing about, hey, you know what, maybe I should have, done the refactoring somewhat differently, or maybe done the design, a little bit different. I think all of that, we see that, there is no space for those conversations. So conversations and discussions are getting very transactional. It's like, okay, okay, we spent already 30 minutes, right? What have we decided? So the urgency suddenly seems to be there. The need to, have some agenda, every time you start off. Some of these can be very unnerving for developers. I being one, I know that sometimes, you just come in, we'll figure out. Now it's just not possible to do that. You just can't grab the person next to you and then go in and do a huddle, or, do a whiteboarding conversation. And especially pairing, it's one of the practices where you also, beyond getting stuff done, you also onboard people. So when you have a new person, join the team, the person gets to learn a lot about, okay, how this team operates, how the code is written, what are the various modules. There's always that knowledge sharing, also that. Now with this setup, I think there is that times where, you're compelled, okay, maybe, what, we'll park that. I'm not going to do that conversation now, because you know what, if we have to spend more time if we get into that. So let's just get the story done or whatever. So hence, it is becoming very narrow. In one way, it is good that you don't end up talking about many things and then not doing the work, not completing the work. But at the same time, because of this fatigue that people have, and even to be very honest, I don't think the gadgets we have today really enable that kind of a conversation. It's not a seamless experience. Sometimes, there is a bandwidth issue, and then you're lost in between. Okay, what were I saying? And then they will say, hey, you're on mute. So all of these things just can cripple that free flowing thing.
Yeah.
Having said that, one of the things, when you are in an agile team, I think it goes back to the philosophy that, let teams be, self organizing, in the sense that let them own things they want to do. So let them look at the problems, the constraints, and then the outcomes as well that they need to own and commit and deliver. So in a way, that independence that teams are given based on the people who are there in the team, team to team, there could be different approaches. The timings could be same. Almost every team have changed. I know, they've changed their core working hours. They have actually split some in the morning, some, maybe late in the evening. And like you mentioned earlier, also some of them have also clearly put out that there will be no meetings. In a way that really helps them also balance the priority. Some are trying Pomodoro techniques. I have seen that, in the chat groups, they said that, okay, we both are pairing now. Let's use the Pomodoro technique. Let's not talk about anything. We'll just focus on this, and whatever is related to that, let's get it done. I heard that is one of the things that people are trying, and it's very effective. But to sum it up, I think it is still a learning phase. Tools are evolving. We are having tools like Mural. Some of you may know that it's an online whiteboarding tool.
I
That's
use it a
almost,
lot.
we have adopted. Yeah, without, we would struggle. Initially, there was a learning curve, and people were like, "Oh, maybe it's going to be hard." But believe me, within 2-3 days, everybody got onboarded. And for everything now, people are using Mural. And I will say, okay, do we really? Mural, but that's a good thing in the sense that once you get used to it, you feel very comfortable to go back to the things that you were almost reliant on in terms of discussions and huddles. And just one other thing I also noticed is that the empathy towards people who used to be remote before, right? Before the COVID happened, some of them were always finding it difficult. Now that it's almost become a leveler, like Ashish was saying, it's a level playing field for everyone, whether it's your client or your own teammates. Everybody now understands, yes, there will be a fatigue. There will be times where you have to take a break. There'll be times where we have to involve everybody in the team. So let's be more mindful of that. Let's be more conscious. So the mutual respect that people give each other, like somewhat magically has gone up. They are more considerate. They are more, asking more open questions. Hey, this is the right time to talk. Maybe, in the office, they bumped into each other and say, okay, come on, let's go get this done, right? Nobody asking anything. Because they always imagine, yeah, you are here in office, you are here to work. Whereas now there is that little bit of improvement, maybe in certain places a lot more in terms of being, in terms of showing mutual respect, being considerate of, the fellow employees' time and space.
Thanks, Shiva. How about Ashish? Ashish, you want to share your thoughts?
Sure. I see a lot of, change in the way of working when it comes to team. I see more positive than negative. Of course, there are always two sides of a coin. So yeah, we can see, there are positive and there. What good things I have seen happening during the pandemic, and I'm sure those will stick for a long. What's happening to the team is 4 5 things. One is almost all conversations are now moving on to the collaboration tool, as Shiva was also mentioning that, especially on MS Teams. I'm not promoting MS Teams, but I think the evolution of MS Teams just happened at the right time, and you have a lot of facility. It's so integrated with your office that you're not looking at the third party tool. It's integrated, and you can create your own team channel, so you have a wider reach, as well as you can create something local, right, within your team, and you can raise the issues. You can have your own meetings, you can go out of the meeting, as you were also saying, right? So those kind of, so softwares have evolved heavily in the last 1 year, including some of the collaboration tools like Morals and all that. Another thing which I found, and we did a survey also, that people felt the greater need for DevOps. I mean, DevOps, we used to push for DevOps. Say, guys, you are doing Agile, is not enough. Why don't you try this? Rather than doing this, now teams are asking, because earlier they could just, tap on the shoulder, work together. But one is the human collaboration, another is your code collaboration. Now, code collaboration you have to do through some tools. That is where your DevOps tool are a must now. It is not an optional. So you will see a greater adoption of DevOps, CI/CD pipeline tools around all the tools, right? I saw a lot of new projects asking for DevOps, and they was the first to ask for those during COVID. Important ceremonies happening over video calls. Yes, I agree. That does not provide you that human touch, but it's probably the second best. Like we are doing the webinar, right? We can still
Yep.
see the faces and at least have some feeling. um, some interesting fact about, and this is like old age problem. Teams are there and they are not updating the Jira. I mean, that is the pretty very very basic. You will see those kind of things have improved, because all these dashboards have become the true source of information. So I'm seeing teams getting updating them very regularly, as and team somehow, by doing this, team is inherently getting closer to follow those core Scrum values, right? Everybody is on a call. They show courage, focus, that commitment. I mean, all that is coming inherently. Now, another thing which I want to touch upon is upon the individual level. So, and that's a again, the double-edged sword, like work-life balance. Few people would say, hey, my life is sorted out. I'm actually using this commutation time for exercise, new hobbies, alternate things they must be doing. However, sometimes you are so choked up in the work, you are not realizing whether it's a day or night, and suddenly you are working 14 hours.
Mhm.
So it is up to the individual how they are reacting to this. But I see a lot of positives. Um, People had adopted some practices. I'm sure some of them, most of them are going to stick. That will become a DNA and not going to go away.
Thanks for sharing, Ashish. And yeah, we are all building new habits, and I think if this pandemic has shown something, it's that we have to be a learning organization. That's the only way any company would survive, because our habits that have been working earlier may not work now. Our habits that we have developed now may not work in the future. And all we can do is continuously inspect and adapt. Inspect what's going on, what are our opportunity areas, and keep building on top of it, right? In my case, I had like funny incident where I always used to remind people of the first value in the Agile manifesto, that individuals and interactions over processes and tools. And I used to tell them, get rid of the tools whenever you can. You are becoming a slave of the tool. But now that we are working remotely, turns out tools are our best friends, right? And some of the team members even poked fun at me. Hey, coach, you told us to avoid tools. Now you are asking us to use the tools. I said, listen, earlier we had different level of capabilities. We were present in the same space together and we were able to talk. Now it is not possible at the moment. If that works for you, if the tools they help, leverage it. I have seen some of my team members, they even have their own iPad. They downloaded the Mural app. They had their stylus. And on that one, they would, if some folks are really good at jotting down on whiteboard, scribbling notes. Now with Mural, they are able to do it virtually, and the rest of the team is able to follow the drawing, whatever they are scribbling, and like, oh yeah, this is exactly what we were talking about. And afterward, just take a snapshot of that, either create the PDF file or an image out of that and upload it into your Jira ticket. So that way it serves as a memory, like, hey, we discussed this and this is how we plan to move forward. This was our approach to solve the problem. Let's stick with it. And people started moving forward. And people are developing new habits. Even I, like, for that matter, the tool that I have never used before, I'm like, holy cow, I need to use this tool now. So good. I see a few questions. Arun has asked, in your organizations, how about the leadership style? Has that changed during the pandemic? And what kind of shifts have you seen? Given that I'm a coach, I'd like to time box this conversation. It's 7:01 over here. Let's try with a 3 minutes time box. What kind of shift have you seen in the leadership style in your organization? Ashish, do you want to go for it first?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the thing which has uh, changed in the leadership style, and it's a compulsion also, right? And
Mm-hmm.
people have moved from verbal communication um, to more on a dashboard side, right? I mean, they are not, rather than, because now, I mean, they could do a meeting and ask single question to 50 people. um, Now they are doing it over the some of the through the some of the tools. So dashboards are in, and they are doing a lot of collections of data through some of the dashboards, and there are some benefits about it, like it's the data is latest, anywhere, anytime available.
Mm-hmm.
um, any kind of data, like it can be a coding side also, overall quality and all that. So one thing is, from being more talkative, they have moved on to this, but this is not a good thing, right? So they are also doing a second flip also. They are also keep taking effort to keep the team engaged, and everybody has a different style, right? So I can't talk about like everybody is doing it, but I've seen uh, across the board, more or less, and frequency may change, that they have set up some engagement meetings, like off work meetings, like I think you started, Puneet, with that yes, there are some space in the,
E-coffee.
yeah, coffee time where you don't have meeting. So I have seen, in fact, my group also does it. It's like we call it after office talk, where we don't talk about the work. We talk about some something personal, that somebody has
Mm-hmm.
made a run, any birthdays, or you want to share some funny movement, or you accomplish something out of your hobby and another thing. So there is a more connect, right? And sometimes we bring our families on the videos as well. It provides you a good connect, and games, different way of retrospective. I remember one of the team did a movie poster. That's amazing retrospective. I have read that book. I keep telling people, hey, there is not a single way of doing the retrospective. There are multiple way, but I think we went beyond. I mean, what they did is they asked to express their feeling through a movie poster. It was a rough sketch, but they can think about any movie, And if there was a firework in the last sprint, somebody actually create Sholay, right? I mean, just to express was this is my expression, and love AGILE and all that. Yeah, no, not in 50 seconds. It was.
No, I'm talking about the time box.
Oh, all right. Okay. So I probably missing out. So I had few more things to say, but what I think just to summarize that people, it's being done both. One is they're moving toward the collaboration tool assisted data, and also they are trying to keep efforts to get the team engaged. I think they're doing both, and it has to be like that.
Now, 3 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I'll probably give two different examples. So one is overall, at an organization level, one of the things that has started happening is, the leadership team comes almost every month for a town hall. And this is something that we used to do when we were much smaller, when we were probably like less than 500 people, or town halls used to happen more frequently every 2 months, or you have people traveling to every other office. We have about six to seven offices in India. Now, after the first 3 months, there was nothing. It was like a lull. Everybody was just looking at the desk, and of course, the fears of whether there could be layoffs. It was there everywhere. I think at first they decided they'll do a town hall, and you should see the number of people that in the town hall. The webinar almost I think it had a max of 1,000 or something, and it just like within few minutes I was trying to log in, I couldn't log in. Almost everybody felt that okay, something is happening here. Is a forum for me to connect with the rest of the thought workers, and we could see that sense of being together, finally there. And since then, they have been continuing the town hall as an edition every month, talking about various updates and also getting teams to come and discuss about their own learnings and things like that. So that is one thing I see that it has been made possible because we are all again in a remote setup now. The other thing which is quite interesting is at a team level. So this is another thing we observed, especially in agile teams. We always have the concept of self-empowered individuals, right? Self-organizing. You don't need a manager, right? Well, who needs a manager who has to look at who's doing what? Because we pick up the work we want. There is self sign up. We get things done. We do showcase to the client. We organize ourselves really well, and we can work together. Now, what this has shown, this pandemic phase, where when everything goes remote and the space to have these conversations and build connect and even spend the time and effort to know about people is becoming very hard. So if you are forming a new team, believe me, and if there are a lot of senior people coming with different capabilities, it can be quite hard to really especially in the forming stage, right? Like we talk about the Huckman stages of team forming and development. So the initial stage can be very rocky. I myself experienced that when my team, we were just getting started and COVID happened. So this phase really meant that leaders have to step up. The leaders, when you say at a team level, the team leads, project managers, who suddenly felt that everybody was asking them, hey, look at this, this is not going right. I'm having this issue. Suddenly their time kind of stretched beyond the 8 hours, wherein sometimes there used to be so much fun that hey, you don't have much work if you're a manager because we get things done. You are just here to talk to the client. That changed big time, and there is this realization that okay, we'll have to figure out how to do many things differently. Like how do you onboard new teams? How do you get team members together? How do you understand teams' individual strengths and weakness?
15 seconds.
Many other things. So I think that's the other shift I have seen, that leadership becomes even more critical, and having the right the personas in the team becomes more important.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing, Shiva. In my case, I have noticed this, that in certain pockets, I have seen leaders who would take conscious attempt to connect with the teams, in smaller groups, just to calm them down. Like, hey, no one's going to lose the jobs. We are there. And first, pay attention to your personal front, because we are all going through a topsy-turvy situation. And over there, the teams also felt a bit more comfort that, hey, we are having leaders who trust us, right? And at the same time, it also turns out that every now and then from employees, like how you mentioned, Shiva, like the team members also stepped up. So that was a classic indicator that leadership doesn't always have to be top down. Leadership can be, that role can be played at any level, right? Even if you are like a freshman, of someone who's fresh out of the college joining the team, taking no one's going to take, no one's going to stop you from taking accountabilities. And uh, the more the team members were able to step and hold each other's back, there were times when team members were struggling. Now actually this is also giving me a segue into my next question, which is, did anyone in your team contract the virus, and because of that the delivery timeline was getting impacted? How was it handled in your teams? And I do have some example from my side, but if Ashish, Shiva, any example, if you remember in your teams, if someone contracted the virus, and what did the team do to support, support the person, and how were you able to impact uh, take care of the impact on the delivery? Anyone had that issue?
I can go, in fact, because
Sure.
we had we're a small team, right? I mean, it's like 35 member practice unit, and one of our member who is a transition manager um, got impacted, and he was actually working on transition, taking transition from another vendor for, and it was a big one, right? His whole family was contracted by COVID, and he had to be admitted into the hospital. Two things which we did is, one thing is we told him that come what may, know, take your time. We will deal with what happens in office. You don't really need to worry about it, and only when you feel comfortable, you need to tell us that you are willing to come back, right, or join back. Till that time, we are there to help you, but don't worry about the work. Uh, we other people were also busy, but yes, we had to see reprioritize some of the work, and because this was a top priority item, couple of people from other project had to shift to this project. There was certain delay, but as I said, like even client, service providers, everybody is in the same boat. So we also told client that this is the situation, there might be a slight delay. They happily agreed to it, right? And this is the way we kind of did this. And by the way, it was a very severe COVID, and he came back to work after 1.5 months. So, and it was
Wow.
whole family. So it was a very, very big impact. Um, the another problem which I see is, I mean, when you are contacted by COVID, the only help you can provide is verbal, right? You can't go to the
Yeah.
hospital and all that. And that was a time of March. It was the
Yeah.
peak, and all we could do is to talk to him, um, give him empathy that we are all with you. But this is one example. We turned it out well. I think there was no problem. We had to reshift some of the work, but we managed well.
Hmm. Great. Shiva, anything from your side?
I think similar to what Ashish said, I think there have been cases, and I mean, yeah, again, thankful that clients have been able to understand that. And I know, I just wonder if it weren't to be the case, if it were to be isolated, then it would have been very difficult.
Hmm.
I was on the other side when there was floods in Chennai once back in 2015, and it was just being such a isolated phenomena. Some of the clients were not as understanding as they have been this time. So yes, we have been able to have those conversations, and yeah, I think people do understand. I think we shouldn't hesitate from holding back and then trying to do something different, or trying to add more capacity and somehow ensure that we deliver. Rather having that conversation first and then ensuring that maybe it can be sorted out
Hmm.
through something that's more sustainable and doable, right? It should not be
Right.
like a superhuman effort,
Hmm.
and it's absolutely fine to discuss these things also with clients. I think we should also get to that state of thinking and working.
Okay, great. Thank you, Shiva. So one of the questions I have received is, what is one thing that your team did differently in Scrum or in Agile ways of working, which is going on so well that now it has become the part of your standard process? I'll put in some from mine. The team that I was coaching, they initially they were like, hey, working agreement is just one piece of paper, and team members were ignoring it. Now that we are all working remotely and everyone having their own challenges, like working remotely, like, hey, we have a severe strain on the bandwidth because the kids are also attending their classrooms from home. I'm doing my work, my spouse is doing her work, and the bandwidth is just taking a lot of beating. So people are trying to spread their hours so that it's possible for them to work. So one of the options we did is like, hey, let's put it together in the working agreement. What will be our working hours, meaning who's working on what, which hours is someone going to work on. So put your name like Punit, here are my working hours. Then Shiva would say, here are my working hours. And we maintain that there has to be some minimum of these many hours of core team overlap, meaning these are the hours when the entire team will be present. And then team members also added like, hey, here are the no meeting zones. So now that they have it, they keep tuning it once in a while, and teams like, this is valuable. Now it has become clear to us, like, why do we need to have a working agreement, so that in case we have situations like this, at least we can't blame our team members. We know why someone is not available, when is the team member available, things like that. That was one practice that they developed, and people felt like, wow, this is something we will continue once even we are back at office, just so maybe we may not need some of these clauses, but at least we need like, hey, what will be our core working hours, what are the hours when we will not have any meetings, so that we can stay focused on our coding or testing, whatever work we do, and undistracted or undisturbed time that we get. So that was one that I definitely would like to share with everyone. So now, Ashish, Shiva, do you have any other thought, like in Scrum or Agile ways of working perspective? What have you seen in your team, a new habit that has been developed and it's working out beautifully now?
So I can go. It's not entirely new, but it's new in the perspective of it is becoming a habit. And what I and some of my known coaches are also pushing for it is a 30-minute time boxing of a sprint planning. Now, how can you have a sprint planning for 30 minutes? There is only one way. There is only one way that you be more prepared in your backlog refinement and all that. Now, in certain way, that is helping also, because earlier people were, I mean, they were, it's not a standard, right? Some teams take 15 minutes also, half an hour, 2 hours, different. But during this pandemic time, we don't want to spend time, long time in the meetings which we can avoid or at least shorten. Sprint planning, we have found this is one meeting which is variable. It can be shortened by being more prepared. Anyway, more preparedness is always good. So we are putting a lot of thrust on being prepared in the backlog refinement, being
Hmm.
more stricter definition of ready. You're identifying dependencies, you're ready. So it becomes more of a formality in your sprint planning, where you're just going and recollecting, really assuring that yes, we are putting the right sprints, and then boom, you go on, right? It's a half an hour job, more than half an hour. We have a question for you then. Why are you spending more than half an hour where you could have be better prepared? And this is definitely helping teams in smoothening their sprint executions as well.
Thanks, Ashish. Shiva.
Yeah, I think very similar to what Ashish just mentioned. I think more in terms of identifying what activities can be done async and what activities really need to be done, in a meeting in a way more synchronous fashion. For example, almost all the internal catch-ups that we have, discussions, brainstorming,
Hmm.
we have called out that every meeting, as much as possible, we need to have a pre-read for that. So don't come into the meeting and then maybe for 1 hour you will give the context for, let's say, 30-40 minutes, and then we are all time squeezed, and some of us will have to continue because you didn't have enough time. So we are getting better in terms of organizing and structuring some of our day-to-day activities. And I just heard one of my colleagues, I just recollect her conversation. She was saying that she's applying the same thing even at home, because there's now the boundary, like some of us were talking, is
Hmm.
blurred. Now you don't know, okay, am I in office hours now? I'm in home hours. I don't know. Nevertheless, my need is there. Like children need me. I need to go do certain things. So I'm also going to extend this this schedule. It's not just in my work calendar. I'm also going to put up a calendar at home, saying, okay, this is when I'll be available. So I think for some people, they've also extended this beyond, just the work environment. Definitely within the work environment, I would say, really urge people to reconsider. Is it really, does it need a synchronous, meeting? Can it be? What parts of it can be done? I think it's not to completely replace everything through offline communication. Nevertheless, spend more, diligence, and then be more respectful and appreciative of others' time. I think that again goes back to the earlier comment as well, that we all should get better in terms of valuing others' time, and yeah, what other opportunity than now, I would say.
Great. Thanks for sharing, Shiva. And there are other habits that the team members develop. Like in my case, the team members, some of them decided like, hey, uh, earlier we used to go to office and come back home, and during the commute is when we used to switch gears, like going to office, coming back to work. Like coming back home. So that was the time they know that, hey, now I'm off my office hat and now back at home. Some of the team members we had, they decided, okay, we'll keep it set that I have a separate room for my office. So they would put a door lock kind, like, hey, we go in, we open, like now it's my office hours. And once that's done, you shut down the laptop and close the door. So you don't have that itch to go back and again check. So some people found it helpful for them. I don't think everyone can. Given that we are all in this tier 1 cities, 1 to 2 BHK is all we have. If we lock the door, then which room are we going to go to? Most likely we'll end up having our one room, the only room being part of our office is also our main room all the time, right? So cool. Vineet is asking, what things are done to increase the team bonding? Kind of like happy hours, since there is no more eating out and such other activities we used to add. That's a great question. In my case, we used to have like the Zoom meeting for tea, coffee in the afternoon, and that worked out quite well. The other activity we did was having that Zoom bridge open where people can pop in anytime they want, and we can just have a casual chit chat and keep working, go pair up in one of the rooms. That also helped for us. So these are some of the habits we developed, and it worked out quite well. Most of the team members did complain at times earlier on that the office hours seems to be stretching way too long now. So having more team building will make it even more. So we try to figure out how we can squeeze these hours during the office hours itself. Like, hey, anyways, if you are planning to go for a tea break in the evening, how about this? Just bring your tea, get on the Zoom call, and let's quickly have a casual conversation. And we did set certain rules like, hey, you are not going to talk about work. Second, you are not going to talk about the damn virus. Anything beyond that, we'll talk about it. But these two things, because work is something we don't want. Second is the COVID-19 kind of conversation was leading to some bit of depressive conversation. So people thought like, let's just park it aside. So that rule also helped people. Shiva, Ashish, anything from your side?
I think again, with my thinking is, I think all organization have moved into that direction. Everybody is thinking about how can we make people engaged. People are also finding their own ways, right? I mean, it's not like leader has to tell, hey, come on a Zoom meeting or do this. People are coming with wonderful, wonderful ideas. Like you said, Puneet, we also had a snack, virtual snack party. It was like, I mean, bring your own snacks. BYOS, we said. I mean, yes, of course, you can't taste others' food, but people showing their culinary skills. It was a very short one. We had coffee, snacks, but it was good. Also, what we are doing is to keep people engaged is created some WhatsApp groups where they are not essentially the work specific groups. We have our colleagues on there, but 95% of the post and forwards are prohibited, but they can share if they ran 5 kilometer, 10 kilometer, or if they did artwork And we also had few joint calls also. But see, the problem is that when, if you remember, when this strike and this started in February, all the groups, your family groups were full of, hey, I made this, I made chola bhatura, I made this, and then faded out, right? Because ultimately you can't keep the same thing. Similarly, what is started in February and March for the connect and the engagement, those habits are also changing. And as you said, we have to be learning, right? On every front, we have to be a learning organization, learning individual, on how to create the connect in a different way. If I do one-on-one every month with the same person is going to fed up, Arey yaar, fir aa gaya, right? So we have to think about different ways. So this is not one thing, but people are, and especially if you, what I have seen is, if you leave this thing to the junior folks, they come up with very wonderful ideas, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they are very creative. They're the most creative in how we can engage, rather than we as a leader try to impose our
Yeah.
ideas. So they come up with wonderful ideas.
Because they are not institutionalized yet.
Yeah. So they are open minded. They can think anything, and they propose few things, absolutely nice things.
Yeah. Shiva, anything from your side? We have about
Yeah,
3 more minutes remaining.
sure. I think, yeah, one observation I had in ThoughtWorks offices is that almost in every office you have the noise group as well. So there is a chat group, which is official one, and there is another suffix with noise. So you will
Mm.
always have Chennai noise, Gurgaon noise. Almost in every office, the traffic just went up in that noise thread immediately following, the months of the lockdown. A lot more interactions started happening, and in a way, some of the leadership teams have also gotten into that and been more active. And in a way, the engagement was almost like not to a main channel, to the noise. It was always seen as a secondary channel that almost times became the primary channel in terms of interest and people participating. The other interesting thing is that, like what Ashish was saying, there was one event where I remember some thought workers from across offices for one song. They had gone up to their terraces. Each one did some dance moves, and they just one of them edited the
Wow.
whole thing. It was almost like all the offices participating in and dancing for one song, though it just had different people come in and go. And that is something I was just like completely like very surprised that, oh, that's also possible. You can think that way, and it just goes back to Ashish's point that people, yeah, do find out ways, how
Yeah.
to put things to the back, and then find new ways to entertain themselves and keep
Thank
them
you.
motivated.
Thanks. Thanks, Shiva. Okay, I think we are almost at the top of the hour. Ram, are you around? There you go.
Yeah, of course I am, Puneet, and that was an awesome discussion, Puneet, Siva, and Ashish. The way you started with the impact of the pandemic on your respective organizations and the organizations you work with, how your organizations adapted, and then moving on to the impact on your Agile and Scrum teams, and what were those key learnings. I think there's a lot of nuggets that I have noted down, which I'll be sharing with the people who have attended. And I've got so many mails from people who couldn't attend for various reasons. I'll be sharing with them. And of course, you ended on a lovely note of the BYOS, bring your own snack, okay, and things that you could do dancing in the terrace, Siva. That's wonderful. So I think it's a lovely discussion, a lovely evening spent, and thanks to the three of you, Puneet, Siva, and Ashish, for taking time out and accepting our invite to be panelists. I think all of us got a lot to learn from the three of you. Thanks to all the participants who joined us. Thank you so much for believing in us and coming to this panel discussion. Before we sign off, one important thing to note, we at SkillTap are into skill-based certifications. And the month of March is going to be a month where we celebrate women, okay, women in tech. So there would be a lot of initiatives we'll be coming up with, a lot of activities specifically focused on women in tech. So this is for your information and for and the people that you work with, the women folk that you work with as well. Please watch out for the information that is coming from our end. Okay. So again, thank you so much, everybody. Wish you all a good evening and a wonderful week ahead. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much
Thank
for having
you.
us.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you all.